All right, our potatoes. Hey everyone, I'm Lauren Toyota and I'm hot for food. Chatelaine and I have teamed up to take all the creamy, cheesy, and sometimes meaty comfort foods you know and love and put a delicious vegan spin on them. On today's episode, the classic shepherd's pie. Let's vegan it. So what do we think of when we think about shepherd's pie? It's creamy, savory, and beefy. It's essentially a beef pie, but we can recreate all of that hearty texture with no meat at all. So we've got our two components to the classic shepherd's pie. We have our mashed potatoes for the top and our kind of meaty plant-based filling for the center. So you can cook both at the same time. It's pretty easy. You just have to preheat your oven to 400 Fahrenheit because that's what you're gonna bake it at. And then you wanna get a pot of cold water coming to a boil here, and you're just gonna add 2 pounds of white or yellow potatoes. So we can let that just go. And then we've got a handy dandy cast iron skillet, which is my favorite thing to use. It's the best thing to cook in. And we are gonna get this going to like a medium heat. So I'm gonna add some vegetable oil to the skillet and get it nice and hot before I add the onions. It's about 1 onion finely diced. And what we're doing here is we're just building some flavors. We are gonna use a vegan ground beef substitute, which is made out of, the oven's ready, so that's good. But the meat substitute we're using is a very lean plant-based protein, and it just happens to be gluten-free, which some people might love about this recipe. So what we're gonna do to this is add all of the same seasonings you would to an actual ground beef, because the thing about plant-based cooking is that plant-based ingredients can be seasoned with the same spices and herbs that you would use on meat products, and you get the same flavor. It's just about getting the right texture, and this product happens to have the exact right texture we want for like a chewy, meaty, savory filling. So the oil is looking glistening. We're gonna add our diced onion in here, and we're gonna saute these for 3 minutes. Or until they're nice and soft and translucent. Okay, now we're gonna add more flavor with fresh herbs and garlic. So I've got minced garlic cloves here. We are gonna add dry sage and some fresh thyme. So you can just take your fresh thyme sprigs and just sort of peel off the leaves like this. And this is where you get that savory, kind of meaty taste, because these are the same herbs you would add if you were going to use ground beef, but we're gonna be using a veggie ground beef. Okay, and we'll just add salt and pepper. And now give this a stir for a few minutes just to get all the herbs and the garlic nice and fragrant. Now we're gonna add our meat and our veggies. So this veggie ground round is made from soy and pea protein. It's very high in protein, so that's gonna go in. We're gonna kind of brown it up a little bit. And to keep it easy, I'm just using a frozen mixed veg, and I've just thawed them. They've just been sitting here. They're kind of half frozen still, so they can go in the pan at any point, even fully frozen. And so let this cook and kind of brown up for a few minutes and absorb all the flavors. While this is cooking, we're gonna mix together a sauce or a gravy, and that's gonna make this filling nice and juicy when it bakes in the oven. So for this, we're gonna use a low sodium vegetable stock. We're gonna add tomato paste. And Worcestershire sauce. What's it called? Worcestershire? I always forget. Worcestershire. Now, Worcestershire actually isn't vegan, but you can buy a vegan version. So that's what I'm gonna add here. And it's got that nice umami, kind of deep, rich flavor. And then I have cornstarch. And just before you add cornstarch into something, you should just mix it together to make a slurry. So I just take a little bit of the liquid and stir it together so it's nice and smooth. Then you don't get any chunks of cornstarch in this. Now you can add that in and whisk this all together. So the nice thing about the filling and that it's veggie based is that it's already cooked. You could just eat that veggie ground round the way it is, but browning it brings out a little bit more flavor and richness. So now we can add this in and then stir it around for about a minute just while it thickens. You shouldn't have too much liquid cooling around. The cornstarch thickens this pretty quickly. So once you have it all tossed and combined, you can actually turn off the heat while your potatoes finish cooking. The potatoes are nice and tender, so we're just gonna drain them. Never rinse the potatoes. You want to keep all that starch in there, and you can just mash them up with the rest of the ingredients in this pot. To get the potatoes nice and creamy, we're gonna add vegan butter, as well as some non-dairy milk. You can use almond or soy. I like adding fresh chives into the mix. Everyone's very particular about their mashed potatoes, but I think in a shepherd's pie, you want them to be fairly simple, and just some salt and pepper, which you can do to taste. And then you can just mash them up until they're nice and smooth. This takes a little bit of muscle, but it's the fun part. You will have boiled the potatoes until they're falling apart more or less, so they should be really soft, and that's how they'll get really smooth in the pot here. Just taste them. Make sure they're salty enough for you. We are ready to assemble a shepherd's pie. So we're gonna use an 8x8 glass baking dish. This is the perfect size for the amounts of filling and potatoes that we've made. So you don't need to grease the pan or anything, just dump all the filling in. Now just spread this out so it's an even layer. And now add the mashed potatoes on top. And it's gonna go right to the edge of the dish. So using a spatula is pretty important here because it's gonna help get the potatoes nice and even on top. So just spread them out. Okay, and then I like to add some smoked paprika on top. It's gonna help it brown up and give it some color. Just a pinch or so. And now we go right in the oven. You don't have to cover it or anything for 20 minutes until the filling looks nice and bubbly. The shepherd's pie is ready, and before you cut into it and serve it, I would just let it rest for about 10 to 15 minutes. It'll help it hold together a little better when you cut it. So, time to dig in here. I like big pieces. And the top got nice and crispy. There she is, a classic shepherd's pie, and that's how you vegan it. Thanks for watching, everybody. The full recipe for the shepherd's pie is in the description below. And if you want to see more episodes of Vegan It, be sure to subscribe to Chatelaine's YouTube channel. You can also look for me, Hot for Food, on YouTube. See you soon.